This is a Dude Studios production. And hey, I'm the dude.
This is Nick, aka Messy Jesse, and you're listening to Hey Bartender Podcast.
Hey bartender, pass me a drink. The reason that I'm here is I need time to think. All the ways of the world.
Also, can you? I am in California homes are like open spaces, so it feels very echoey to me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, cool.
There might be a couple times where something might get a little garbled, but I can try to fix that as best as I can when I edit the show and stuff like that. But just otherwise, just sit back, relax. This is just going to be a casual conversation.
Totally, let's do it.
So anyway, welcome to Hey Bartender Podcast. Why don't everybody knows me as Anthony, or my nickname is always the dude. I don't know how that started. It started back in high school. But why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is Nick. If you are my fellow bartenders, it's Messy Jesse, because these poor guys will make simple syrup every day, and I will wear half of it out the door, unfortunately. I'm 27. I'm not good at talking about myself. My favorite snack is hot Cheetos, and my pronouns are she, he, and they, and that's about it.
So where are you from?
I am originally from Monterey, California, and I live in Sonoma County and work in Napa.
Oh, wow. Wine country. Cool. So, with every podcast that I've ever done, I mean, we're just going to have a casual conversation, swap stories, talk about your career. So usually I like to start at the beginning of your career working in the service industry. How long have you been working in the service industry?
I believe I was 21. I switched from being a personal trainer to being a hostess, which is kind of crazy because being a personal trainer made less money than me being a 5% tipped out hostess.
Yeah, that's actually a big job leap. Now, was this at a local gym or chain gym that you were being a personal trainer?
It was, I guess, family owned or like individually private owned. It was really fun. So on one side, which I actually competed in, I was an Olympic weightlifter, but because Olympic weightlifting makes no money, I was a trainer on the other side. So I actually cleaned the gym on Sundays, but then I got my personal training certification and trained people on, I guess, Monday through Friday.
Oh, okay. You're a potential Olympiad weightlifter. That's incredibly impressive. But so how did you all of a sudden end up going into being a hostess at a restaurant?
So one of my friends who I kind of rallied into being a Olympic weightlifter, she was moving to Oregon. She was going to be a sports writer. And she said, one of my colleagues asked for someone to take my place. And I thought you'd be a great candidate for it. And so I went in and interviewed, and I'm super awkward as a person. I'm going to say and like a bajillion times. So if this conversation is terrible, we're going to chalk it up to an L, and we're going to just throw it away and pretend it never happened.
Well, you should listen to me editing this, because I say a lot, and what people hear on the podcast is actually about 60-70% less than what I actually said. I've gotten to the point where I can actually recognize the waveform of my own voice saying so
I will send you so many snacks from my work for all the hard work you're going to have to do for this. But yeah, I ended up landing the job. I think I'm extremely eccentric outside of, I guess, when I feel like I'm just being a homebody. And it was so fun for me. I was very fortunate to start in an industry that was not formal, but a little farm to table, California rustic. And, we wore these really weird denim outfits, and it was like not form fitting, but, we talked about culture, and we had Romanesco rather than cauliflower. And I didn't fit in at all. Like, I still don't really feel like I fit in any of my jobs, but it was really fun for me and it was a huge challenge. I get bored very easily. So this was something that I was so into the second that I was like, oh man, I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to sell food. I know how to be an athlete, but I can be an athlete and still do all of these things on the side.
Sure.
And so I chose to do that.
Yeah, I think I had kind of the same problem because before I started in the service industry, I worked in retail, and that was hell for me. I hated talking to people. I hated dealing with customers, and go home frustrated all the time. But I decided to go to learn how to be a bartender. I actually went to a bartending school, and I learned how to be a bartender in hopes that me being as introverted as I am, that bartending would help me open up to people, talk to people. Kind of the same way, or the reason why I started the podcast is to be able to talk to people. So it's like an exercise in being more or less introverted. So I totally get where you're coming from.
Oh, definitely. I will stand in front of our staff mirror and I'll do that whole actress thing where I'm like, red leather, yellow leather, like, focus, Nick, you can do this. Like, and I'll like jump out into the bar and I'll like do all these circus tricks. And then by the end of my shift, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. I just need my bed. And at one point you tell yourself like, that's not me. This is all an act. But at the same time, you realize you're just one person and you're like, no, this whole crazy, like, very fun, sexy inside of you, that is you. And I think it is so much fun to be able to say, I do this for a living and I can be crazy and cool and put on this whole act and still go home and just want to put sweatpants on a Monday, Tuesday and just sleep all day.
So you started out as a hostess, and that's usually a pretty good spot to start because pretty much you greet the customers, give them the menus, set them at a table. Did you ever have any real issues with any of the customers? Because you're the first person they see. You're the one that greets them, but you're also the last person they see on their way out. And I've asked this of another hostess before. Did you ever have any problems with customers not so hot with the service, or customers that were really good with the service and were, just different attitudes as they're leaving? Or just people that are
definitely
that are just sitting. I've been waiting for 10 minutes. I'm waiting for my table and or stuff like that.
Dude, you're going to laugh at this. Okay. So our restaurant, I really don't know why. We just served fresh veggies on like these really beautiful ceramic plates. It was nothing crazy. You could make this stuff at home. And people would come in and be like, oh, we like specifically traveled here for this restaurant. What's the quote time? And I'd be like, it's about 3 hours. And they'd be like, yeah, put us on the list. I'm so excited for this crudité plate. And I'd be like, wait, what? Okay. And I would put them in and they still had this really great time. And I was confused because at that point I had like the palate of a little child that eat like an orange and an egg a day. And I was like, why would you wait so long for fresh, beautiful veggies? So that was very positive. I haven't had that experience since I stopped working at that restaurant. But a lot of the negative experiences I got was working in Sonoma and Napa County. You definitely get the, why am I paying $20 for a glass of wine? Why am I paying, like, oh, you're making me sous vide eggs on toast. Why am I paying like $30 for that? And as a host, and I wasn't in the industry for very long, I didn't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
So those were definitely the negative parts that I dealt with. And I very much have a fire energy about myself. So rather than being like, I definitely understand, I'd be like, I would come at them and I'd be like, oh, what do you mean? This is like my job. These are my people. Don't come at my family. So I learned very quickly if I wanted to give my servers a tip so they would tip me out, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. Let me go get a manager. All will be well. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my like super weird positive and negative experiences.
Well, you didn't, since they didn't know you were an Olympic contender for weightlifting. You didn't get all they didn't know that there was a possibility you could get all Hulk strong and, flip the table on them or anything like that, right?
Oh, definitely. No one saw these freaking guns that I have. I'm exaggerating, everyone who's listening, which are my two friends. But we wore these like super denim, as I was saying. They were dresses, but they were flat. They were so puffy. It was like I was wearing a denim garbage can. So again, no one saw the muscles that I was working with for 3 hours a day.
When I saw you're a weightlifter, I was waiting to use that comment of being Hulk strong and then flipping a table. That was like number 4 on the agenda, but
I definitely will always be like, do you want me to fight them to one of my servers? And I'll be behind the bar and they'll be like, no, I was just telling you in confidence. I'm like, let me know if you want me to fight them. There's no reason. I don't need to do that.
Yeah. Just I'm sheer curiosity. What did you lift? What's your max? Or I'm not a weightlifter. I don't know what they do, but what did you?
Okay. I was just telling my partner that I used to cut down from 120 pounds to 107 pounds to lift 170 pounds in the snatch and then like 205 pounds in the clean and jerk. And to be completely honest, if you look at the Olympic Games that are going on right now, there was no reason I needed to do that. I was very subpar. 2016 in the trials, maybe that'd be good, but now everyone's in such a high caliber. It's just like, wow, why did I waste all that time instead of living life and eating all of this fun, like duck liver pate and everything, and like this beautiful margarita. I was working in such a beautiful industry, just completely missing out on everything. I would look at my friends and be like, no, I'll take a sparkling water with bitters. That sounds so delicious right now. Wasted time, dude. So much wasted time. But yeah, I think my biggest accolade is I squatted 395 pounds once. That's it, just once.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm awesome. That's it. Goodbye.
See, at the job that I have right now, every once in a while we get these kids that come in and think that as soon as they're I work in the wind industry. I climb the turbines and work on those things. And but these kids come in and they come in and I got to be in shape for this job. And I said, no, because if you go to the gym at night, you're just going to be tired for the next morning. That's all you're going to do. But one guy was bragging that he went to the gym and deadlift 300 pounds. And to me, that means nothing because I'm not a weightlifter. I'm really not an athlete at all. I mean, I do some things that are considered athletic to some, but he was like, I deadlift 300 pounds yesterday. But the guys that I work with who did do weightlifting when they were in high school, they sat back and said, he shouldn't really brag about that. That's not much. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I think you very soon, hopefully soon, you realize that it's all relative. It's not, and this applies to life. Like you stop looking at other people and comparing yourself and saying, I'm hitting this number because someone else is hitting this number, or like I'm getting this far in life because this person is getting so far in their life. And I try to tell my sisters that it's just like, you have to go in every day and say, this is the best thing that I can do. And oh, it's so goofy. I used to chase numbers. No one cared about those numbers except for me. I didn't wake up and people were like, who gives a shit? Let's go eat some pizza after this workout.
Well, you got to have personal goals. I mean,
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Unattainable goals, though, are like a little insane, where I'm like, I want to snatch 300 pounds for what?
Yeah.
Who's like, no one cares.
Yeah, that was my whole idea on it. So what, you can lift 300 pounds. How often does that come up?
Right.
So besides at the job that I have right now, it's we're not allowed to carry anything over 50 pounds without help to avoid back problems or strained muscles or something like that. So I was just like, whatever,
You were so lucky. Sometimes I carry Topo Chicos and I'm like, is anyone going to help me carry these upstairs? And I'm just like such a baby. And they're like, you like lift for a living. And I'm like, no, it's so heavy. Like I'm so dainty. And they're like, no, you're not. You're built like a freaking like running back. Carry them. I'm like, I regret telling everyone my Instagram. This is the worst.
So after being a hostess for a while, did you move up to server?
Okay, this is kind of funny, but I wanted to be a server so bad. And so what I started doing was, as a host, our restaurant was small. We had like 20 tables and we'd still do like 300 in the morning and then 200 at night. And I really didn't understand that turn time. But I just started bussing tables and acting as a busser. And then I learned how to run cards on the system. So I started running cards for servers, and then they would get new tables and they'd be like, how did I turn that table so fast? Like, just so oblivious, like, wow. Like at service, they'd be like, wow, I'm so fast. And I'm like, no, you're not. I did that for you.
You're an awesome hostess then, because most of the time hostess don't have time to do that.
No, and I would just like run back and forth, and eventually I would just take tables and like from the host stand in like maybe the first couple tables, and no one questioned it. No one really cared. And then I would go and do a checkout at the end of the day, and then I would get tipped out, and they were like, who'd you train with? And I would just make it up. Like my best friend worked with me, and I'd be like, oh, I trained with Max. It just lie through. And they'd be like, that's great. So I started getting on the schedule as a server, which I was like, that never happened. I slid through, and I was so lucky, and that's how I became a server.
Oh,
that happened very fast.
I can imagine, because usually when hostesses or even dishwashers are really on the ball, and which when I was a dishwasher, I was not on the ball. People had to remind me, can you come up and get my bus tub, please? And I was really bad about that. But when you're really on the ball, they tend to want to push you up to get you on the floor, or do things like that. So you were, like aces. They dream about hostesses like you in restaurants. So, before we get too far into this, I told you that you're a bartender. Now, I usually encourage people that come on my show to give a drink special. Now, whether it's something that you enjoy pouring or something that you invented by yourself, I would love to hear it. Please tell me the name of the drink and how you make it.
Okay, I'm so excited about this question. My very first cocktail finally went on a menu for my new job, which I don't understand how I got this job. I'm so underqualified for it, and it is such an amazing place to work at. It is my own tiki drink. So it's a 1 1/4 quarter of dark rum, and then 3/4 of just London dry gin. You can use botanical. I guess it doesn't really matter. 1/2 ounce of spicy honey. It's literally just honey and whatever peppers that you have. 1/4 of Canton, just for like a little bit of ginger. Dash of orgeat, a dash of spicy bitters, which is just like a pepper and orange bitters. And what else is in this cocktail? I really don't think there's anything else to it. You shake it and throw it in a Nick and Nora, or honestly, like a single rocks glass. It is so delicious. And I don't drink cocktails. I am like a purist and will drink tequila and Budweiser all day. And it made me so happy. If it was on the menu, I'd call it baby's first cocktail, but they call it rum guava. Oh my gosh, I forgot those 2 ingredients. It's 1 ounce guava and 1 ounce lime.
Yeah.
Which makes it a little tart and fun.
Yeah, the picture that I ran across on Instagram, I think.
You saved it.
Yeah, I saved it. That's what made me want to contact you, because somehow I was did you tag me in that post or something, or?
I did. I was just so hyped up, and my bar manager, when he had me make the cocktail, he looked at me while we were doing nothing, and he was like, Nick, make a cocktail. And I was just like, like for fun or what's going on? And he was like, yeah, for fun. And I played with it like 3 or 4 times one day, and then like a few other times one day. And he was like, okay, make it Napa, like make it very important, like very niche to our restaurant. So I tried to find ingredients that we could pick from our farm. And I was just like, this is so cool. Like, this is very much what like Du talks about on like just keeping it real and keeping it like so true to you. And I was very excited about it. So I did tag you.
Yeah. I'm happy you tagged me on it, because it gave me a chance to, contact you, find you, and then bring you on the show. I was just like, well, that's awesome. Somebody's personal drink gets put onto the restaurant menu as a specialty. So yeah, that's totally cool that your bar manager or your restaurant owner was just like, make us something, be creative. What do you got? And
yeah, it was very rewarding because I'm definitely the youngest by, I don't know, like 10, 15 years on these other bartenders that have owned and ran restaurants. And they were kind of very much like, Nick, we've already done this. Like, you need to work on figuring out how to do this on your own. And I'm like I feel very shy, even though I feel outspoken at the same time, but I didn't think that I could do it. And so for everyone else to rally up and say, you can do this, it was such a boost of confidence for me to look at the menu and go, holy shit, this is on the menu and people order it. This is so cool. It was like really just confirmed that maybe I am meant to be here. And I felt very good.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you tagged me in that post, because I love it when people contact me. That's one of the coolest things about doing this podcast. Which led, were you expecting me to say, hey, you want to come on the show and talk about it for a bit? And were you expecting that to happen?
No, not at all. I was just expecting, like, it wasn't even rewarding. I was just like, hey, I did this. Like, one time at my old job, I spilled hot simple syrup all over me. It was like my last 5 minutes when I shut down. I was like, I got you, bartender. Don't even worry, I'll make it. And it was a huge Cambro, like the biggest one you can have. And I opened the door like a dum-dum and spilled all over. And I had long hair back then, just all over me. And I was like, I'm okay. And I like tagged some sort of like server problem Instagram, and they were like, this is hilarious. I'm just going to repost it. And then I got a bunch of like, yeah, me too, this totally happened. And I just like wanted to feel like I wasn't alone. So yeah. It was more so like I was trying to like be like, hey, if anyone's ever felt like, you're not enough, like I just wanted to show you that you are like totally enough and you're not alone.
Yeah, spilling things, that's basically part of the restaurant industry. I mean, you have to expect that from time to time. I mean, my biggest spill was I was pouring like a Hefeweizen for a customer, but the bottom of the glass of the pint glass just decided to break right off, and it was almost full and just broke right off, and then Hefeweizen everywhere. And the funny thing about it is I just stared at it like, well, great. Like I'm 2 hours into the shift. I'm going to smell like Hefeweizen the rest of the day. I turned to the actual bartender, because I was a server that day. I turned to the bartender, and she immediately turned around because she wanted to bust out laughing as hard as she could, but she didn't want to be rude to me. And I've seen other servers do that, where they come over, bring a beer to whoever I'm having dinner with, and all of a sudden the glass breaks right underneath it for no reason, or God forbid, drop the tray. I've seen all that sort of thing, but it's nice that everybody was supportive instead of the typical where, the customers hear a crash and everybody starts applauding, or
they say, Opa, yeah. It's the worst. I hate that. You're like, shut up. Let's just let everyone have their very nice dinner and be quiet.
I've never had somebody do that before, but I did.
What?
But I did have a friend that embarrassed me at a restaurant one night because somebody dropped a bunch of plates and she decided to blurt out, job opening. And I said, don't do that.
Oh no.
But yeah,
I think
nobody ever yelled "Opa."
Well, it's so bad. I feel like it happens routinely, and it's just a way to be like lighthearted, everyone move on, but at the same time, everyone's all eyes are on you. But so this July has just been, I've been talking about it to everyone. I'm like, this is everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, like very much Murphy's Law. And I was like, I made this very beautiful, like Cosmo, and I'm going to walk out to this person who's gorgeous, Nick and Nora. And I lean down and trip like the goofy motherfucker that I am. I just fucking spilled all over the table, like this splashes on this girl's beautiful pants. And thank God she's so sweet. She's like, "Tell me, sweetheart, this happened before." And I was like, more than one bartender has spilled their drink all over you? And like, I'm freaking over here about to cry. And she's like, "Oh, no, I've done it to people." And I was like, "Oh, people means more than once. Thank goodness." And I like run inside, and my bar manager is like, "Why don't you run their drinks?" I'm like, "Oh, no, fuck no. If it's a martini or Cosmo, you can't catch me running that. I don't want to spill it on anyone." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "You're such a scaredy cat." And I was like, "Yeah, give me a year and then it will go away."
Yeah. Unfortunately, I never learned the valuable skill of holding a tray very properly, so I avoided that as much as possible. I bring out 2-3 drinks at a time by hand because my coworker, she was really good at holding it straight up, like 5 shots, 5 beers, all on one tray. But
dude, is this your way of holding it properly?
The way she did it, that's the way she used to do it. Yeah, above her shoulder for the people listening at home.
Yeah, he's holding his like hands flat up against the air like we're in Vegas. I would never do that. No.
I couldn't do that. No.
No. I say 4 drinks minimum, at my waist-side, teeny tiny, super solid leather tray. And then I hold it like this. I'm going to just slowly walk it as slow as I can.
Oh, I held it with hands on each side of each side of the tray. That's how, if I brought out more than 3 drinks, I felt like, okay, I need to bring it out on a tray. Hands on either side of the tray and bring it out at waist level.
Oh my God. The anxiety. It's fine. I get that. I feel that on your level.
But, okay, so back to waitressing for a little bit. Now, how long were you a waitress?
Okay, sporadically. I was a waitress the entire time I worked at my very first restaurant job, where I went from like hostessing to sneakily being a server, which was 2 years that I was being a server. And then I worked at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. That is not a flex whatsoever. It was terrifying, and I had to wear a suit, and I did not like it. Mm-hmm. I was a breakfast server. We would be like, "Here's your Denave breakfast, where we're going to give you 30,000 plates that you're not going to finish." Did that for like on and off for 2 years, and I fucking hated it. And then I did that at another restaurant job for maybe another 2.5 years, until I was like, I'm going to fucking quit. I want to be a bartender. I want to fucking learn this industry. I'm sorry, I'm cussing. Is that
no,
okay?
It's totally cool.
Okay, cool.
Edit
it out if you need, whatever.
I did a podcast a long time ago about all the swear words that you can use, and you've heard of the comedian George Carlin, right?
With the 7 whatever,
7
the
dirty
bad,
words.
all
Yeah.
of that. Yes.
7 dirty words. Yeah, I'll shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. I say it all the time. Yeah, so.
I really only use the fuck word, I promise.
It's probably the most popular swear word out there. So.
It is my favorite one, but I was like, to be completely honest, I'm going to sound like a psycho, but I was in my early 20s. I was going from that 3 Michelin star restaurant for breakfast, and then I was sprinting to that denim wearing restaurant for lunch, and then I would sprint to this Italian restaurant to dinner until midnight. And I was just doing this triangle like I didn't need sleep, because obviously I'm in my early 20s where nothing matters, for so long, until I burned out. And then up until COVID, then I worked at this I don't know how to say it other than like, I guess more high end restaurants
Mm-hmm.
where I was hired as a bartender. But until you learn this very beautiful, intricate menu, you have to be a server or a captain. And finally, I guess maybe 8 weeks ago, I was finally able to be a bartender and feel like I was who I was again. And that felt very powerful to say, this is who I am. This is what I want to do.
Right.
So I think I was probably a captain in terms of years longer than I was a bartender, but I don't think I ever felt like home in the industry until I was a bartender. So I guess maybe like 10 years compared to 5 years.
So you'll have to clarify for me, what's a captain?
This is a freaking fancy way of saying server. We're servers. We're food creme janitors.
Okay.
Like, let's not get it confused, everyone. Just, I want all my friends to know that we're like, in Napa, it's very like pertinent to be like, I'm a captain. It's like, no, we serve food. That's all we do. We just serve the food and we sell the menu. That's it.
Just a fancier title. Okay.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, whatever works. But but we were talking about holding trays, and I'm sorry I keep going back to your weightlifting days. But did you have to ever carry one of those big oval trays, and where you had to put out the legs and serve that way?
No, at the fancy restaurant, okay, people who are obviously listening to the podcast, you can't see, dude, I'm going to do this right now. We had to carry this huge wooden tray that carried the Denabe breakfast that I was talking about with like the 30 intricate plates, and you'd have to hold it like this. And we were in suits, and we would carry it upstairs, like whatever those British people are that march up and down with the stupid hats.
Yeah, the Royal Guard, yeah.
Yeah, and you were just like knocking, and they're like, okay, I'm not going to say names, we just like serve famous people and be like, hello, you requested breakfast at this time, and we would knock for like 15 freaking minutes, just like holding this tray, shaking. And you try to put like your leg up, but it's so heavy, you would knock over the Denabe. So I didn't carry the circular plates, but my delts were freaking jacked after that.
So you had to carry the tray straight out. Your arms were basically straight out in front of you.
Yeah. The trays for sure. I'm 4'10", but my wingspan is still pretty long. The tray would go out all the way where my arm is. And you would just hold it right in the middle. And you were like, lats, please work. And shoulders work. And we only served 5 rooms. But 5 rooms for like 15 minutes, you were just like, I'm dying. I hate this. I want to quit. This is the worst. Every day.
Meanwhile, somebody who makes way more money than I do, or has a famous celebrity of some kind, or potentially just somebody who has a lot of YouTube views, is just waiting for their breakfast. And you have to stand there suffering, holding this thing, kicking the door down, basically.
Yeah, am I allowed to say that celebrities, even at my work now, we serve a lot of celebrities, they're the worst tippers, and that's why I believe the rich stay rich, is because, people are terrible tippers.
Yeah. Whenever I hear about a celebrity that's a good tipper, it typically makes the news, or a Reddit, or a top 10 on top 10 on something, because I've heard of celebrities that it's well documented. Bill Murray, I've heard he tips 100% of the ticket.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, everybody knows that. But I've heard about some bad tipping celebrities, and I'm going to play nice because I know a lot of celebrities have been a server or a bartender at one time in their lives, and I'd love to have them on their show. So I got to play nice, but. But yeah, it depends on the so-called celebrity, and I'm not even sure what the term celebrity means anymore, since people are just being famous for the sake of being famous. It's like, what do you do? and
oh, I know, like influencer is a real thing, which I kind of feel like my sister is like an aspiring influencer. And I'm just like, how are you? I work so many hours. How are you making money by just, what are you influencing? What are you doing for the world and like for the people, which is fine, whatever. But in my opinion, I don't know. I will go broke tipping the industry. I'm such a big believer in like small business. Fuck yeah, like support all my friends. And I'm just like, why am I tipping 45%? It's not like I'm balling. Like, you know, I can pay my bills, but I'm just like, they know that you love them if you just give them 20%. But in my opinion, I'm like, you know, I'm making up for all the people that are going to stiff you today. I don't know.
Well, my friend Shannon and my friend Barb, we used to go to restaurants together all the time, and we used to visit particularly the restaurants where the servers that would come into our bar would come and visit us. So we'd like, let's see. These two people are working at Red Robin tonight. Let's go visit them. And we go over to Red Robin, have dinner, drinks, whatever. We'd tip the shit out of them. And then they'd come over to our bar, have drinks, shoot pool, whatever. And then they'd tip the shit out of us. So it never felt like tipping. It was more money exchanging hands. You know?
Exactly.
It's this week it's your turn to hold the $20 bill, you know?
Yeah, it was like my 20 to your 20, and then you're going to give it back to me. And it's almost like me and my friend exchanged numbers the other day because he was like, you order chicken wings more than anyone that I know. Just text me so I can have your chicken wings ready and then bring them to the industry bar that we all go to. So they're just readily hot. And I'm like, oh my God, I love the industry. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, I used to do that.
So cool.
I used to do that too when some of the bars that, you know, like my bar was the latest bar open, but some of the bartenders and servers couldn't get the bar closed early enough so they could come over to the bar. By the time I stopped serving at 1:30, but I could have drinks out on the floor until 2:30. So, you know, some people would try to double up, give me 2 Coors Lights or, but I would tell these servers, if you think you're going to be late, call the bar, whether it's me, Barb, Brian, whoever. Just say who you are, where you work, and what your drink order is. We'll have it ready by the time you get here. And yeah, that happened constantly. We would do that for our other restaurants in town.
I feel that so much. And we're we're a restaurant that has a bar, and this is more of a negative story.
That's okay.
But our captains, the host will stop seeing them at 8 p.m. I mean, technically it's not that late, but they'll keep serving the bar, and they'll send everyone. They're like, go on in the bar. You're freaking fine until 9:30. And we're trying to shut down. Like, we have as a bar, you already know you have to clean so many things for like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And people will come up and like order a 3-course meal and like want 4 drinks. And you're like, why couldn't you just, you know, have them seated? And it's just like, we're not a late night bar. We want to go to the late night bar. Freaking get them out of here. Send them over to the other bar where they just serve tapas. Why do you need a full Bavette steak right now at 9 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
It kills me. And I try not to like complain because I'm like the young, more hip bartender, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn into a grumpy 45-year-old man. I'm not afraid. Mm.
So, without naming names or any specific stories, what's your clientele like? What are your regulars, the people that you like, or, you know, we don't need to talk about Karens or anything like that, but
absolutely.
What's your clientele like? Or is it more quiet dining, or do you have a TV in there playing whatever sports game might be on playing, or whatever? What are they
Right.
like?
So I'm going to sound bougie, and I really don't want to sound like that because I feel like I'm just still a normal small town kid. However, the restaurant that I work in, we have made it very apparent that we want to be the hub for anyone that comes to Napa Valley. Like any vineyard that people come to, any restaurant that people come to, and whenever people ask where should we go, we want to say, come to our restaurant. Like no matter how much money you have or not money that you have, you can eat here. And so the clientele that we get is, I would honestly say it's 50-50. It's half regulars where it's like people who own all these very, very beautiful upscale vineyards and people who just own like whatever regular wineries or breweries, just super awesome companies. But then also people who coming from Texas and just traveling through and passing by, and you get to talk to a little bit of everyone where you kind of have to pretend like you know all this like whatever like bourgeois type of conversation where you like hold yourself up, you're like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. To other people who were like, I want a whiskey soda. Why are you charging me fucking $20 for it? And you just get to know everyone and you kind of learn how to converse with all of these very beautiful people. And I think it's more so because of our menu. So we charge $170 for this insane cut of steak where we know the name of this cow and the very street that it's on and the freaking farmer who our owner is best friends with, down to a smash burger that everyone can afford, and it can like warrant a bib gourmand. And you know, like we try to keep the menu very diverse. And I think that's what attracts a little bit of everyone. That's what I like. I like to be able to learn and continue to carry a conversation with a little bit of everyone. It kind of keeps you well-rounded, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was hoping to learn as a bartender, is to be able to talk to most personalities. But the one personality that I could never get used to talk to is because I never pay attention to sports at all. And so I get these guys that want to talk about baseball, want to talk about basketball. I got nothing. Oh,
okay, I'm gonna cut you off for 1 second.
Okay.
And so so when I got to my restaurant, because we were fancy, I'm not even gonna tell you the backstory to this. When you would say you have to use the laboratory in fancy words, they said, you say 42. I don't understand fucking why, but I thought it was funny. So I'd sprint up to all of these boys and I'd be like, Jackie Robinson, and sprint downstairs. No one fucking caught that reference.
Nobody caught that reference?
Stupid, fancy Honda cars. Like I was just like, all right, I guess I just fucking, and they'd be like, where's Nick? Why'd she disappear? And I would run up and be like, I said Jackie Robinson, you don't get it? And it's just like, one of the sous chefs would be like, all right, we're throwing in Omaha. We're going to put this ticket over here. And people would be like, what? And I would be like, he's like throwing an audible. Like, we got to switch it up a little bit. And then even the boys would be like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, never mind. He's like, moving the ticket. He said it was going to be up first, and now it's up third. Like, it's just like having to explain sports is something that I very much love. I grew up an athlete. I get it. And then when I don't know, we're in a fancier place where people like constantly see McLarens and Ferraris and I don't know, all these dumb cars that I don't know about. And so it's just like we get lost in translation. So I definitely get that.
Well, people got, after a long time, people started to realize, okay, this guy's got nothing on sports. But but I knew who you were talking about when you said 42. I had two choices in my head. Either Jackie Robinson's number or the answer to life and everything from the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And And so that's where my mind went, because I'm a pop culture junkie. I listen to music. I watch movies. I watch TV. I can talk about that stuff until I'm blue in the face. I mean, my friend Shannon, she got a customer that said, you know, that guy Anthony at the other bar, he doesn't talk much. And she's like, just ask him about the Beatles and he won't shut up. But I've warned many people that, you know, you ask me any question about the Beatles, be prepared for at least a half-hour lecture. And so some people, you know, were like, okay, I get it. Never mind. But
I definitely get that. Team USA for softball. No one pays attention to softball, but I grew up a softball athlete for like 15 years, and they were playing, and I was one of my favorite athletes. She was in the Olympics 4 times, and I like yanked my partner and whoever he was on to, and like all of our coworkers at this industry bar, and I was like, she's on TV, look at her right now. And it was like 1 a.m, and no one gave a shit whatsoever. And I was just like, no one cares about this woman who's 38 playing in the Olympics, just crushing it. So yeah, I relate.
I mean, I know some of the major, you know, I know how to keep score in most of the sports. I know how they're played, but player statistics, the players other than the ones that don't, the ones that have a lot of high sponsorships, highly visible sponsorships, I know who they are. But if you want to talk about statistics or strategies or plays or specific games in specific years, no. You won't get that from me.
Oh, you're not into like specific cybermetrics of like the whatever?
Yeah.
Like a very specific team that no one cares about? You're not into that?
You will not catch me ever playing fantasy football. Ever.
No, I get that. But it's like, I think it's not so much about the topic, but you kind of click on a topic that you can relate. So there's this person that comes into the bar, so fucking sweet, but he's rich as shit. I don't want to freaking talk to you. Don't order 2 orders of caviar in front of me and then like a freaking like pappy and then make it into an old fashioned, which is fucking blasphemy. I'm a purist. Don't do that in front of me that I have to make and cry about. But one day he was talking about something and I was like, look, I'm not digging this. So I tried to change the conversation into his children and his beautiful life. And he turned it around back on me and like, what do you want to do? And in my lifetime, I was just like, you know, once I stack up all these dollar bills, which I honestly don't know if that's going to happen. I was like, you know, I want to run an orphanage and have this beautiful rescue farm, which I kind of have a tiny rescue farm with my best friend. I was like, I want to do this. And we immediately connected. He was like, oh, I have all these connections. Like, didn't you know my wife does X, Y, and Z with the government? And he was like, you just let me know. And like slid me his card. And immediately we were able to have a conversation for like 20 minutes. And finally, I have that tool to say, how do I shift the conversation into something not so shallow, but also not something that separates us, but like find a middle and say, this is what we can talk about. And him and I will, or like them and I will agree on it and talk about it for like 20 minutes and make his experience so wonderful. And it's a skill that I think you just have to learn by being in the industry.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I thought, I was talking about it with somebody else a while ago, that of developing a college course or a high school semester or something like that, where everybody has to work in the service industry, and you can learn communication, you can learn bookkeeping, you can learn all this stuff just from working in a restaurant for 3 to 6 months, instead of being one of those people that's entitled and thinks that they're, you know, how come it took you 5 minutes to bring me my cup of ranch, you know? But Oh, you just got a migraine, it looks like, over that phrase.
No, you know what it is? It's because I believe that every bad experience I have with a server is like retribution for me as a kid going, oh, Mountain Max is open for 3 more minutes. I'm going to order a pizza. Like, and just be terrible. And they deliver, and I just tip them like $2. And I was worse. At 18, I was the freaking worst. So like at 12, I'd be like, can I have ranch? Can I have pepper? Can I have salt? Like, not just freaking ask at one time. And I thought it was cute. Like, I thought they wanted to talk to me, and they were like, are you fucking kidding me? And so now I know that it's karma every time someone does it to me. So it's like, fuck.
Yeah. Oh, kind of like my mom always warns me, it always comes back eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to deal with the whole COVID pandemic like everybody else did. Were you unemployed for a little while?
I was only unemployed from February to the middle of April. Not even the middle of April, from February to March. We closed on St. Patty's Day. And then from December to maybe mid January. Very, very fortunate being in Sonoma and Napa County, because apparently no one believes in rules out here, seeing that it's, whatever. We bring in revenue from tourists, whatever, neither here nor there. But we did to-goes. It was insane. It felt like it was a stacked breakfast, stacked dinner, like on a Saturday night every day. Mm-hmm. Like, people refuse. I think it was like emotionally, people refused to cook, and they were just, and it wasn't like the support of the community. They were like, I'm not freaking cooking. I'm going to have my comfort food, which I understand because I did the same thing. I love McDonald's. Chicken nuggets are my favorite. I don't care I don't care what caliber of place I work at. I love chicken nuggets. And so it's not like I was affected very much. Emotionally, I was affected. So once we opened to the public, we had a skeleton crew. And so me and maybe 4 or 5 other servers were crushing it with, like, I don't know, 10 to 12 tables at a time. And we weren't like a quick diner. We were just like, we were still mid-scale, sprinting around, like yelling out 3 specials. And I had this denim apron from my old job, and I would stick like a Pellegrino and like an aquapana, and I would hold dishes, and I'd be like, here you go, be right back, here you go, these are the specials, and like drop everything off at one time. And it was just like, and then you serve like a table of 16, and all these people who came in for like late anniversaries, and like beautiful upscale people, and it just starts to get to your head, and you're like, fuck, COVID affected me, and you don't know that until COVID's over. Which it's still not technically.
Technically, no. Yeah. But it was hard on a lot of people. And every day I heard the word non-essential when it came to restaurant industry. It made my skin crawl because, you referred to the service industry or the job, as one lawyer decided to send me an email about it. It's not the people that were, what's the word I just used? It's not the people that were not important. It was the job itself. Well, the restaurants were still open, and they were doing to-go service and stuff like that. But a lot of people were unemployed and just sitting at home. And when you're referred to as, some people I really don't blame for not coming back to their restaurant or whatever, because when you're referred to as non-essential, that hits your self-esteem a little bit, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But some people are trying to justify that by saying, well, that gave me the opportunity to go out and look for a different job, or well, I'm not a big believer in job security ever. Right. I don't, some bosses will help fight for you. Some bosses won't. You say you said something sarcastic to a customer one day, and then sometimes it's a roll of the dice whether or not your boss is going to side with you, or if the boss is going to say, okay, you need to be nice to them. And so your self-worth, especially during COVID, being referred to as non-essential, that had to hurt a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. I would say that COVID almost equated to the fires where, I mean, we weren't evacuating during COVID, but we were still wearing our masks, screaming at people. And during the fires, me and my best friend had to evacuate all of our wonderful animals who they're pet animals. They're just like, why are you, like my goat and sheep who we walk on leashes, we're like, why are you taking us away? Why are you putting us in this weird farm? We don't know all of these other pets. Like it like hurts us. And then we were going back to our jobs, putting masks on, and even through the mask, we were at the end of the night, we were like blowing black ash out of our nose and people were just like, why are you crying about it? You don't have to work there. Like, it doesn't, like, you don't really fucking matter. You are replaceable. And that was really hard to say when you're just like, I ride or die for this company. Why are you saying that I'm non-essential? I'm giving you food that makes you so happy. I want this to be my career. Don't call me non-essential. Like, we feed people. And my old boss had this beautiful nonprofit, and to be like, I'm non-essential. I like want to work for, this beautiful company that does all these great things. And that was really hard.
Yeah.
So, and it definitely affects your self-esteem. Like, and this is going to sound weird, but even being a woman, and I don't like to do like gender, but it hurts you, like constantly feeling like, I'm in a male run industry, and to be like, you're already below these men, and then to be like, you don't matter. Like it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
So last year was a really hard year.
Yeah, pretty much for everybody. And to sit back and see restaurants close, mostly the mom and pop owned restaurants, to see them completely closed because they just couldn't keep up the revenue. It was heartbreaking to see them, they probably saved up their money for years, their retirement money, just to get that one location. And now they're closed because they can't afford the employees, because they're not turning out enough profit or anything like that. And that was hard to watch. But
yeah, definitely. Like watching all the restaurants, because we're technically, I guess, a pop business, because it was one person that owned it, to be like, we're so lucky because we're on the downtown square, but to see everyone else around fall, you're like, are we next? Or are we so fortunate to keep crushing it because everyone else around us is falling? That was hard.
Now, this is going to be a pressure switch. It always is. It is for me. It's for every server, bartender on the planet. How hard do you have to control yourself when somebody says something to the effect of, why don't you get a real job?
Okay. Because it didn't come from regular people. It came from my parents. To be completely, this is going to sound so terrible. Okay, I have a degree in pre-med. I opted out of a doctorate because I was already in the industry. Just addicted to the adrenaline, addicted to getting cash every night, going,
Yes.
I'm a baller. No, you're not a baller. You're just not getting it on the paycheck, whatever. This happened very recently. So this started when I was, 20, 21, and I'm now, how old, late 20s. My parents came into the restaurant. I never tell them where I work. I hide, like a little sneaky minx. And I finally was like, whatever, fucking come into the restaurant. This is going to be great. I'm going to make you eat my shorts. I wine and dine them. It was awesome. And then, but it was outside. I wasn't bartending outside. I was bartending inside. So I was like, get over here. And they decided to freaking bring themselves inside. I was like, no one welcomed you here. You're supposed to sit outside. Like, no one said you can move. And I was doing what normal bartenders do, freaking shaking and mixing at the same time. That's what we do. And I was, chatting up with the customer, like talking to my other bartender. That's just it. And all of a sudden I see a light and I turn and my dad is recording me flashing, and our bar is pretty high. I'm 4'10", but my bar is still like almost at my chest. So you have to like jump up to hit no matter what shelf, like bottom to top. And he's talking, I can hear him talking about himself. It's like, she still got her athletic. She's jumping to the top. Like a fucking MLB, like as if he's Joe Buck, honestly. And he's like, I like jumped down with a bottle and I'm like pouring it. And my mother's looking at me and my grandparents are there. And I look at him and I'm like, Dad, you're fucking embarrassing me. But it doesn't register in my head that finally they see what I do as being a career. And I am so, so, so fortunate that I started in like a farm to table California rustic restaurant and then moved up from there. And I need to make it very clear that it's not a bash on anyone who starts somewhere at like, I don't know, like at a diner or a cafe. Like that has nothing to do with it. But I was very fortunate to kind of like just to learn the way that those kinds of menus work. And my dad finally texted me and was just like, I'm so proud of you. I finally see, that this can be something that you pursue your whole life. We know that you wanted to do wine and you worked in like the beer industry and, now you want to bartend. It was so big. It made such a big impact on the way that I feel about how I do things. And it felt really good. It was, again, the same way that my cocktail went on the menu. It was another confirmation that I'm meant to do this. I want to do this. I'm going to freaking steal the freaking bar program from my manager once he leaves, because I know he's leaving. And so you have to have conviction. You have to say, fuck what people say. Like, I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I get to wear like a very cute freaking outfit. I get to work weird vampire hours. Like, you have to just not give a fuck about what people think. Mm. And all of that goes away because you say, I love this job. I love the adrenaline.
That's very profound. That was well put. And yeah, I got nothing to add to that. I mean, you finally get your parents' approval to the point where they're making a video of you with play-by-play. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
it's yeah.
Well, anyway, time to wrap up the show. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on Hey Bartender podcast. It's an honor to meet you. It's great to meet you. If you want, is there anything you want to plug right now that you got going on?
I suppose I don't want anyone else to know like my TikTok or anything, but my Instagram is thicknick. It's ThiickNikk. I more so talk about, I didn't even talk about this at the beginning of the podcast, but I deal with bipolar 1 and how it affects me in the industry and my eccentricity. And so I'm very vulnerable on it. And I think it's very uplifting and makes you feel less alone in terms of not even people in the industry, just everyone in general. So I'm going to plug that. If I bash this, I'm so sorry, dude, but I don't know. It was so fun talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah. It was great. So, yeah, you mentioned something about that earlier. You you wanted to start an orphanage, or you work, or what was? I can edit this to make sense. Trust me. But what was it that you wanted to talk about? Bipolar disorder, or
Not so much. I don't think that I wanted to talk about it, but I think it's important to know that, like, if you work in an industry, kind of, there's a type of, not darkness, but there's a type of personality that you have to stay strong and stay in the industry, and not just say, like, I was in it for a year or two. And you have to have thick skin, but also this weird darkness that says, constantly getting attacked. I constantly have to be this type of person. And I think with having a personality disorder, it's easy for me to kind of turn on and be like, oh, I'm fucking ready to crush this. And other days you're like, I really don't want to crush this. I want to still turn it the fuck on. And so there's days when you're like, this is who I am. And there's other days when you're like, this actually wasn't me. And I'm still going to be the other me that I can be. We don't have to talk about that on the podcast, but if you don't want to. But I think it's really important to know that, there's other people that struggle with. There's a lot of people that struggle with bipolar, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as mine, but it's something to be said, and to say that, you're not alone. There's so many people that struggle with it, and, stay strong. You can still crush this industry.
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that the way it is. That I like the way that sounded. So thank you so much for that. So yeah, Nick, thank you so much for being on Hey Bartender podcast. You are welcome back on the show anytime you want, if you've got a news story or whatever, or just shoot the breeze, because you're a lot of fun to talk to.
Dude, you were so awesome. I was so afraid. I was talking to my partner like for the last couple of days, and I was like, I'm gonna fail it. I'm so afraid. And that he was just like, you're just talking to a person. And so
yeah,
thank you for dealing with my awkwardness.
It's not like this is the Conan O'Brien show where you got an audience. It's just you and me. So,
not singing a love ballad? What do you mean? I'm about to go.
But thank you so much.
Thank you, love. I hope to talk to you soon, okay?
All right, people, it is last call for alcohol. Come on up and get your drink. You might want to limit yourself, because I've kind of been lazy about getting the dirty dishes and doing the dishes, so kind of limit yourself. Wasn't she a great guest? I mean, seriously, that story where she was talking about her parents coming into the restaurant, I loved that. I've been nailing it with getting in these awesome guests for this podcast. Hey, if you want to be an awesome guest on the podcast, all you have to do is email me, dude@heybartenderpodcast.com. If you don't want to be on the show and just want to share a story that I can share on the podcast, feel free to do that. If you just want to share a drink special that you want to share to the masses, I can do that for you too. Either email me at my email address, dude@heybartenderpodcast.com, or you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Both are Hey Bartender Podcast, and you can DM me your information there. I love bringing on guests on this show. All of us bartenders, servers that go way back have these awesome stories, and to hear people talk about how it helped them out in life, or how it made a difference on what they became or what they are today. I love these stories. It's just fucking awesome, isn't it? Also, people, remember to visit www.heybartenderpodcast.com, where you can pick up some Hey Bartender podcast swag, buy a t-shirt, support a podcast. That's what I'm telling you guys. And you can also listen to past episodes, current episodes. Just go over there and check it out. See if there's something you like. Hey, also remember, go over to Apple Podcasts and give me a review. Give me a star rating. 5 stars would be awesome. Give me a review. And at the end of August, I will be choosing one person out of all of those people, no matter what they said about me. I will be choosing one person and giving them a free Hey Bartender Podcast t-shirt. So leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. review Hey Bartender Podcast, and you could win a free Hey Bartender Podcast t-shirt. I might, maybe more. Depends on what my budget is that month. It usually isn't great. But thank you for listening to Hey Bartender Podcast. You guys are completely awesome for helping support me in building up my listener base. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody who's ever worked in the service industry, or if you're listening to this podcast while you're sitting in a restaurant, tell your server about it. Why not? I mean, don't think of that as in lieu of a tip, because that would be just rude. However, people, as usual, I just want to wish you all lots of love, lots of sex, lots of happiness. And remember, don't take any shit from anyone. Good night.
What do you mean it's last call? I just got here.